Let's talk about the internet today. The internet was founded back in 1969 uh, by the United States of America based upon a project known as the Advanced Research Project Agency Network, otherwise known as ARPANET. Back then, we were just concerned about sharing information in case one node were to go down. Later on, in 1991, the web was introduced. At that time, the web was very elementary. We can say that we were at Web 1.0. Web 1.0. Web 1.0 basically just focused on linking information from point to point. All right. Few users could actually create content on the web. Obviously, that's not how we know the web today. Today, all right, we're more familiar with Web 2.0. This is where we have dynamic content and social interaction. Dynamic content and social interaction with Web 2.0, where non-text could be seen and heard. Folks like us, intro students, intro to computer students, can put their information in social media and they can see our information. We can create blogs if we wanted to. All right. However, it is hard to locate valuable and timely information using Web 2.0. So therefore, we are now evolved to Web 3.0, and we may not be using that readily today, where it identifies relationships between data. We kind of talked about it in our earlier um, podcast, but a good example would be down here with the Internet of Things and Fitbit. Okay, we've seen these Fitbits in the gym, or just folks are wearing it. Some people just may be wearing the Apple Watch. All right, where you're working out, it's tracking your steps, it's tracking your heartbeat, and it's sharing that information again with a server. Okay, which may uh, have information again about uh, your particular demographics and how you compare to that, and send that back to you saying, hey, your pulse rate is below or above what it should be based upon, someone of your age, someone of your height, someone of your weight, etc. Other examples of Web 3.0 where you have personalized information would be the Siri and Google Assistant updating you, on your calendar events, etc. Internet access. We have, in order to have internet access, at least at home, etc., we have internet service providers that provide that to us, like Comcast or AT&T. And typically, we just use a browser to look at a particular web page that we want to go to. All right. And to be clear, there is a specific difference between the internet and the web. The internet is the backbone. All right, and the web are just simply the web pages that sit, okay, on that backbone and are part of it. A lot of times we access the internet to get to these web pages, and we do that via a web browser. In a web browser, a lot of times at the top we have what's known as the URL. All right, and you can see here as we're breaking down that URL by the very first portion, okay, which is just simply the HTTPS. All all right, or HTTP in this example, and that's known as the protocol. The protocol or protocols are rules for exchanging data between computers or PCs, nodes, etc. All right, and HTTPS is one of those widely used internet protocols. The domain name is from www.com all the way down, www.mtv all the way down to .com. That whole thing is the domain name. So here's HTTPS. All right, and then we have www.mtv.com. That's the domain name. It indicates a specific address where that particular resource is located. Domain name meaning something that we can easily remember versus actually what's underneath it is an IP address, which we'll talk about at a later time. And then you have a top level domain. That's the portion of the domain name at the end, the .com. All right, that's the top level domain. The .com would actually tell you that it's a commercial website. Okay, you may have a .edu, which means it's educational, kind of like lonestar.edu. You may have an organization, a .org, a .gov. Okay. There are also, when we're accessing the internet, we also see and experience and take for granted interactive websites. Now, back in the day, a web page could look just like this presentation here. It's a little bland, there's nothing popping out at you, so to say. And that was your web page. You can put your resume on there if you wanted to, or pictures of yourself vacationing, but you couldn't create thumbnails, etc. But you can today. All right. The very first type of technology was known as a cascading style sheets. Cascading style sheets are separate files referenced by or lines inserted into an HTML document that control the appearance of a web page. All right. And then you also have JavaScript and PHP. Both of these are programming languages used within an HTML document to trigger interactive features. With JavaScript, it's run locally on your PC. Okay. With PHP, it's run off the server. All right. So sometimes the processing is happening here and sometimes the processing is happening here. It just depends on whether or not you're using JavaScript or PHP. Web utilities. Web utilities are specialized utility programs that make using the internet and the web easier and safe. For instance, you can have filters that prevent perhaps your children, etc., from accessing certain websites. A security suite to prevent you from running into malware, malicious software. You can also do file transfer, where you can have a web-based file transferring program that allows you to just use a browser, okay, to upload data and to download data. Or if you had client software and server software, you can use either BitTorrent or FTP. FileZilla, I believe that's what it's called, is free FTP software that you can use to move files from A to B. Okay. You also have what's known as BitTorrent. With BitTorrent, back in the day, it used to be a notorious way of perhaps downloading movies or songs. So if you have a song, or let's just say you have a movie, since these are big files, and of course you weren't supposed to do this. What happens is that when you go out there and search for it, you got that movie here, and all those sources of that same movie are downloading at the same time. Instead of downloading one movie down here, 1, 2, 3, and let's say we're A here. Instead of downloading just source 3, we're downloading source 1, 2, and 3. We're breaking up each of the movies. Let's say, metaphorically, this is a first third, and this is a second third, and this is the last, well, yeah, this is the last third here, and they're all downloading at the same time, thus increasing your speed and process of downloading. And that's why people were using BitTorrent, or one of the ways that you weren't supposed to. But another way that you can download files quickly for legitimate purposes, rather than just using FTP and it taking a much longer time. Communication and the internet. We communicate through what? Social networking. You may have a Facebook page, a Twitter account, etc. Our school has that. Our school district does that to communicate with the general public and, of course, to students. You could have blogs using something like WordPress, where you blog about perhaps golf or tennis, or a particular topic from school or social interest, etc., where others can contribute to it as well. We can communicate through webcast, which allow you to access the multimedia file while it's downloading to your computer through a technology called streaming, versus a podcast where you have to download the entire multimedia file before you can watch it. We also have wikis. I'm sure you're familiar with Wikipedia, which is like an encyclopedia, but instead it's a wiki that allows you to so to say contribute to its knowledge bank. In other words, if you're a member, not only can you read it, okay, you can update it in terms of the content that's up there. And that's how wikis work. Then you also have your emails. Communication with me is required through email or discussion post within D2L. There's also messaging. I'm sure many of you are familiar with SMS, or at least its use. SMS basically stands for short message service. Okay, and that's basically, said another way, it's just texting. All right, I'm sure many of you text on your phone, and I'm sure many of you are using MMS, which is multimedia messaging service, which allows you to send pictures, etc., along with your text. Okay, and of course there's also IM instant messaging. This is pretty useful tool, especially in an environment where you need real-time communication. It can be done obviously for social reasons and of course for productivity reasons. For productivity reasons, if you think about this, rather than talking on a radio, etc., you can have a phone, a mobile device on you in which you have IM, where remote people need to be, perhaps this person is at a remote site and these folks are at a different remote site, and they're all handling the same type of project to where they can share with this particular person who perhaps is new what it is that they're supposed to do at the remote site. What are they supposed to do with the flux capacitor, so to say, and they can do that and take pictures, show videos, etc., of how to adjust the flux capacitor. We also use the communications in terms of using search engines. I'm sure most of us are familiar with Google, and our text here has Bing up at the very top for the Microsoft Google equivalent, so to say. And it's important that we actually evaluate our content when we are going to perhaps Wikipedia or anywhere else, in the sense that we must look at it in terms of its authority, meaning is the person who wrote the information in Wikipedia, or the folks in Wikipedia, are they experts in that particular knowledge? Okay, we have to look at its accuracy. Okay, has the information been reviewed? Uh, wikis are wikis are reviewed by the people who contribute to it. Okay, is it objective? All right, is there any bias towards it? You know, did someone say that eating fast food was healthy, and the person who said it happened to be, a researcher that was paid from the fast food industry? And is it current, the concurrency? How long ago was it posted? Was it posted recently, or was it posted, I don't know, 30 years ago or something? Those are the different ways of evaluating a website, is to be mindful of these particular attributes. Last, we have e-commerce and the internet. E-commerce, there are several categories. You have B2C, which is business to consumer, where perhaps you have Amazon selling to us. Okay. Then you also have consumer to consumer, which is kind of like having electronic classified ads. An example of an intermediary that does consumer to consumer would be eBay, where we're allowed to sell to one another, us to us, okay, like a classified. And then you have B2B, business to business, where you can have someone like Walmart and Bic shaving blades have a relationship, to where when Walmart's inventory levels on the shelves of Bic blades are low, Bic will automatically ship to Walmart, or will ship to Walmart. It can be automated through like a database where Bic has access to it. That could be its extranet, Walmart's extranet, and when it's low, they already have permission to ship those particular blades to Walmart. Finally, the way to make payments for these things could be through your credit cards, etc., especially when we're talking about consumers, and also digital cash, which is kind of like an equivalent. So $1 of United States dollars could be the equivalent of $1 in digital cash, or something like that. And that's how we're using digital cash these days. Typically, they're handled through an intermediary, just like our credit cards are. It could be a bank, etc. So in summary, we talked about the internet today, when it was founded back in 1969, basically by the United States government, to how the internet evolved to what we know today because of the value of having the web sitting on the internet foundation. Okay, and that started in 1991, to where we built up from Web 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0 today, where we actually can have technologies such as using our Fitbit and have technology go back and forth and have value to us. We know how we access the internet through our ISP providers using our browsers. Okay, and of course, we take for granted the interactive websites that we have access to today. We talked about web utilities, okay, that help manage our use of the internet in terms of it being filtered or transferring files and our security on it, and the various ways that we communicate on the internet, all the way down from social networking, okay, to being sure that we're evaluating what it is that we're looking at and reading. And then, of course, we topped it off with talking about electronic business or e-commerce, from businesses to us, to consumers, businesses to businesses, and ways of paying for those services and other deliverables. And that's the internet.